So hello there, my name's Chuck. I wanted to do a video. This is actually a very difficult video to do, but I wanted to talk about working from home and sounding professional. All right, it's increasingly common that people are working from home professionally to work with customers and discussing very intricate and delicate details. Some of them may be even very emotional, right? And the topic here is about clarity of communication and sounding professional. So there's the obvious things when working from home that are a problem in sounding professional. There's somebody mowing their yard out there. I don't know if you can hear that or not. You may or may not, but we'll proceed as if you can't. So one of the things that I've noted, both as a customer talking to a professional and a professional talking to a customer, I happen to be I live in Nashville and decades of audio work and pro audio and that kind of thing. So I want to demonstrate something that many professionals that work from home don't consider. And that's how the room sounds that they're communicating in, the one that they're talking in. All right? Now I'm going to demonstrate two extremes, very, very wide extremes. This is my kitchen. I'm standing in my kitchen talking to the camcorder. The camcorder has two microphones and they're in stereo. But the same effect happens on the phone. In fact, it's even more pronounced on the phone because speakerphone microphones and speakers are inherently awful. That's pretty much the best description compared to real microphones and real speakers, right? Their job is simply to get enough done to get the job done as inexpensively as possible. So, I'm standing in my kitchen. My house is built in 1955. It's got the linoleum floor. It's got plaster walls. They're not drywall, they're plaster. They're even much harder than drywall. And quite honestly, it sounds like it. We need to talk about room acoustics, all right? So let's go ahead. I'm going to demonstrate the first immediate difference, a wide extreme. All right, I'm in a different room. That is the only difference. I'm not talking any different. The distance from me to that camcorder is approximately the same. I'm merely in a different room. Now, I'm in an acoustically treated recording room, right? So this is an extreme difference from the kitchen, but I'm trying to demonstrate this. I'm going to go back to the kitchen. Let's go. Okay, I'm back in the kitchen. Hopefully you can hear a pretty dramatic difference in just my speaking. So I want to demonstrate some things and how to tell whether or not we're really sounding professional, and how to look at your room and how to test it. And the simplest, best test is simply to clap your hands. Stand in your room. See what the room sounds like. Let's go to the other room and see what that sounds like. Okay, now let's go back to the kitchen. How many of you saw that video of the poor guy talking to the BBC, right? He's in his home office. He's talking to the BBC about a world important issue. Korea and North Korea and South Korea and all this stuff. And the kids come in, one after another, and the wife comes in trying to handle the kids. The whole world saw it and cracked it up. That's one of the risks of working from home. And we all kind of can experience that. But the other thing is, how did the room sound that he was sitting in? I heard it immediately, right? Do we sound professional working from home in the room that we're conducting professional business in? So I wanted to demonstrate something here. Many times we're not even on video. What we're on is a speakerphone. So they can't hear us or see us. I'm sorry, they can hear us, but they can't see us. So there we go. I'm simulating that and trying not to cover up one of the two microphones because I don't want the cloth to cause a difference in sound. Okay, so now you're just listening to me. Now listen to my hand clap. All right. Now let's go back to the studio. Now you're just listening to me. I'm in the studio. All right. More than likely you could hear a dramatic difference. Now I'm going to go back to the kitchen, and we wanted to conduct something that simulates professionalism. We're going to talk about your money. You have $100,000 invested, and we want to talk about your $100,000. So let's simulate actually conducting business. Right? Here we go. I'm trying to blank that out. So when you put your $100,000 into 3 different mutual funds, you started out in October of 07 with $100,000, and you had a maximum loss in the fund that was the S&P 500, and that occurred in October 08. However, when you had a 40-60% ratio of stocks to bonds, you had 40% in stocks and 60% in bonds. The maximum negative loss also took place on October 8th, but it was less than half of your maximum loss, the S&P 500. In fact, the 40% stocks and 60% bonds was able to recover within the next year. However, the S&P 500 didn't recover until March of 2012. That was a good 4 years later. So you have here, how long did it take to recover? And that's because of the stocks and bonds ratio. Okay, so now I've simulated speaking professionally about your $100,000. Why did you lose money, and how long will it take for you to get that $100,000 back? And I'm coming back into the studio, and I want you to hear me. I'm back in the studio, and I'm talking about your money. That money that you slaved and worked hard, really, really hard for, that $100,000 that you scraped and saved. So your $100,000 in October 2007 started losing money and had maximum loss in October of 08. The maximum loss was the standard S&P 500, where you lost a good, looks like approximately 50%. You started with 100,000, ended up with 50,000. Not very good. But when you had a mixture of 40% stocks and 60% bonds, you had a maximum loss of approximately, I'd say roughly $20,000. You get the point here. Do we sound professional working from home? And one of the biggest problems we have with sounding professional is the room acoustics. The tendency for people who are talking in a room like my kitchen is to speak louder and to ask the customer to speak louder because it's hard to hear what they're saying. I may sound like I'm speaking less loudly here, but that's because there's not all this sound bouncing around, right? So hopefully I've demonstrated why people working from home sound like they're working from home. I had a situation take place recently where I was talking with a professional, was highly professional, extremely diligent, very educated, right? And number one, I could tell that he was working from home, right? And number two, I even told him what the dimensions of the room were that he was working in, what the walls were made out of, and whether or not he had carpet, right? Now, I don't expect most people to be able to do that. You know, be able to identify, hey, that sounds like drywall as opposed to plaster. But what can be done are simple solutions for room acoustics when working from home. The simplest thing, choose a room that has a carpet. Now, if it doesn't have a carpet, go buy a nice oriental rug that looks good in the room and matches the decor. That takes care of the sound bouncing from ceiling to floor. It does a lot to absorb those sounds that are bouncing around until all the energy is absorbed. It's kind of important to understand what's happening. When I clap my hands, the first sound waves go from my hands directly to these microphones. And then everything you hear after that is the rest of the air moving around in the room until that energy is absorbed. And when I'm in a room that's got hard walls and hard floor, those air waves are moving around because sound is a compression wave. It's not the same thing as turning a fan on, but it's a compression wave. And those compression waves are bouncing around the room and all kinds of things. And we've got parallel walls, they bounce back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until the walls absorb all the energy of the compression wave of the sound. Same with the floor and ceiling. If you want to improve your room acoustics and sound more professional, when you're talking to somebody about their $100,000 or what they need to do about their life insurance, it matters. Do you sound like you're working from home? Do you sound like you're working from your bathroom? Bathrooms are the worst. It's almost, well, my kitchen's about as bad as a bathroom that's got tile. Not maybe. So you can test this by simply taking your iPhone, putting in the office that you work in, and clap your hands. And then play back what you record. Do you hear the room? Does that sound professional? Then you can take simply 3 blankets, throw a blanket on the floor, hang a blanket on the back wall, hang a blanket on either on the left wall or the right wall, and record the same thing and see if you hear a difference. Right? More than likely, I would hope that you hear a difference. And so far as room acoustics, professionals working from home don't need to go spend thousands of dollars on treatment like I've done here for recording acoustic guitars and electric guitars. This is extreme, this example. But simple things like hanging some carpet on the walls to the back, the back wall, side wall, and a carpet on the floor to help absorb these reflections. You can also, there's also acoustic treatment like this that's pretty affordable. You can even buy this kind of stuff that has paintings on it, pictures. They make audio absorbent material. I thought about getting that. That's getting kind of expensive, several $100s or something. You can put those on the wall, and they're especially designed to absorb sound, and they can look nice in a room. But simply 3 blankets, you might notice a difference. I'm not saying go out and buy eggshell or whatever you call those things, that holds the eggs, the egg cartons. Not the egg cartons. You can decorate the room and absorb the sound in the same thing, but do you sound professional? Again, I'm going to go back. All right, so I'm trying to talk to you about your loved one that's in the hospital. How long would their hospital stay be? Let's see what I can find out about the insurance and see what kind of insurance, as I log into my computer and I tell you, well, the insurance is going to cover this much and it's not going to cover that much. Do I sound professional? It's a very inexpensive trick to improve intelligibility, if that's a word, clarity in communication, and do we help the customer? And when we're professional to professional, right? There's oftentimes we do that. 2 professionals are working from home. Holy mackerel. Just a simple rug on the floor, rug on the wall, rug on another wall, and they can be all kinds of pretty or decorative or whatever you want. But it will help improve clarity. And not only that, will they understand what you're saying better? You will understand what they are saying better. One of the things that we have to do when we're working on the phone is make a guess at emotions. Are we hearing the other professional's emotions here? Are we really understanding that? Are we conveying our own? Are we communicating in a way where we can pick up these nuances that are really important? Or do I sound like I'm in an echo chamber? Right? Which is basically what this is. It's a very, very bad echo chamber. So play around with it. 3 blankets, do some recording, learn a little bit about it, and you can really polish your professionalism in a way that is quite evident. Thank you very much.